Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's your pal Noms here, and today I'm here to talk about a topic that really struck a chord with me. Something that it's a topic that we've covered extensively in the past, and it's regarding a certain aspect of the topic that we all have our suspicions, our speculations, and this does fit into that as well. This is going off, he said, she said. But I watched a video with Geeks and Gamers recently. I follow Geeks and Gamers quite thoroughly. I watch almost every single one of their videos. I don't have time to watch them all, but this is one of those videos I sure as shit wasn't going to miss because basically confirms what we've all thought for at least 2 years by now. Well, what we've all thought since Disney acquired Star Wars. So, here's the timeline. George Lucas sells Star Wars in 2012. Disney decides not to use his story treatments, makes Force Awakens. George Lucas hated it. Disney goes ahead and makes Rogue One. George, I'm not quite sure what his opinion of Rogue One was. Apparently Gareth Edwards worked with George on the project, at least from a storytelling aspect. Gareth Edwards did the right thing, sorted out the original creator's input, put it in. Kathleen Kennedy reshot it. Despite the fact that Rogue One had so many reshoots and whatever, I still think it's pretty damn good. Alright, despite Kathleen Kennedy. Last Jedi happens, pretty much destroys anything that Star Wars had left to offer, and Rise of Skywalker buried it. Solo, no one gives a shit about or remembers. Alright, that's the timeline. Now, this video from Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy is interviewing a man called Cameron Pasha, or Pasha. I apologize if I said your name wrong. Anyway, the interview, I didn't get to watch the whole Q&A. Basically, Cameron Pasha is a well-known Hollywood screenwriter and I think producer as well. I could be wrong about that. He's a dude from Hollywood. He knows how Hollywood works, what happens behind the scenes. He has many friends in very high places who know many different directors, etc. All right. Now, in this interview, this Q&A interview between Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and Cameron Pasha, this is what he had to say regarding how George Lucas feels about The Last Jedi. I'm going to play a snippet for you here, and I don't want to take anything away from Jeremy. I'm going to link the full video below so you can watch it in its entirety. But I just want to play the snippet for you here for the sake of context. Here it is.
Mind blowing, and again, that's just a prediction you're making. That's not, saying you have.
I don't have any internal knowledge. I do have people who know George Lucas personally and well, who have said to me that he hates The Last Jedi and he's horrified by what's happened.
Really?
I've had people, screenwriters that have worked with Lucasfilm that have told me directly that,
See,
I
didn't know. I never even thought to ask you that question. So can we, and of course I'm not going to ask you any questions specifically about names because I would never ask you to do that.
This is just so fucking depressing, really. Because I've been saying it for so long. That's, look, you don't have to be fucking Einstein to hate The Last Jedi. I'm not going to be charitable. Just about everyone with a fucking brain hates The Last Jedi at this point. Some people still love it. Other people, myself included, loved it, or liked it at first, and then quickly turned on it, right? Because we saw the light, so to speak. We wanted it to be good. It didn't turn out to be good. And it's one of the worst movies ever constructed. Same with Jurassic World Fallen Order, The Predator by Shane Black. You get the idea. Now, that is what The Last Jedi is, and that's what Disney Star Wars, or Disney's higher-ups, the new leadership at Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy, and just about everyone in between turned Star Wars into, because they wouldn't follow the treatments of the original creator. George Lucas had ideas, he had treatments, he had it all planned out, more or less. He sold those treatments to Bob Iger, and Bob Iger revealed, now we have this piece of information from last year, Bob Iger revealed in his autobiography that he had a very loose agreement with Lucas that he would use the story treatments. But, it was more like a handshake agreement. George Lucas and Bob Iger have been friends for a long time. So I think George Lucas took his hand in friendship, and he would honor the series, do right by George, because George is essentially giving Star Wars to him for a steal. I mean, did anyone find it odd Anyone who still says Lucas took the money because he's greedy is retarded. George Lucas, if anything, sold Star Wars to Disney for a steal price. $4 billion for Star Wars. Assuming you don't fuck it up to the degree that Disney has, it shouldn't take very long to make that money back whatsoever. Right? It's Star Wars. George made $36 billion off Star Wars, running it all himself. I think I read that somewhere, that Star Wars was worth like $36 billion at this at some point during the last decade. It was, ranked like it made that much money. Anyway, so I imagine a corporate entity like Disney could make that money back if they had half a fucking brain. George did it pretty much all himself. Right now, Bob Iger reneged. He said, no, we're not going to use your story treatments. We're going to do our own thing because we spent all this money and we need to make something that's quintessentially Star Wars. This is his quote from the autobiography. So in other words, we need to pander like a motherfucker to get people to spend money. And we need to feed them their childhood back to them like the saps that they are. That was his attitude. I don't care what anyone says. It's what The Force Awakens was at this point. Wake up, people. So they renege. George hated The Force Awakens because it was extremely unimaginative. And now Cameron Pashar just brings more facts to light regarding Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson, who publicly stated that, recently, mind you, that he stands by every choice he made. He also admitted publicly that he didn't give a crap about the source material or reading about the universe, learning the lore, anything like that. He just wanted to make his movie. J.J. Abrams wanted to make his movie with The Force Awakens. J.J. Abrams wanted to repair and simultaneously make a corporate money-making machine with The Rise of Skywalker, which fucked everything more. And, I'll go out on a limb here and say The Rise of Skywalker is worse than The Last Jedi, objectively, but The Last Jedi was the one that did the most damage to the series, and it's the one I hate the most. And George Lucas hates it just like all of us did. That's what the Cameron Pashar goes out on a limb and says. And honestly, it really just breaks my heart. It really does. Because George with the whole prequel hate and shit, and I've done many videos on the prequels at this point. Look, George loved what he did. He didn't know Star Wars was going to turn to this big global juggernaut. He was just an independent filmmaker who wanted to make his movies. That's all he fucking was. He needs money to live. He wanted to make a fucking fortune off his good luck. I say fucking let him do it. No one had a gun to people's heads and told them to buy the fucking Darth Maul toys, or the Jar Jar toys, or the fucking lightsabers, you name it, alright? They bought it themselves. It doesn't fall on George. The People versus George Lucas is a joke. Whoever the fuck made that documentary should be fucking ashamed of themselves. I don't care. Alright? The Red Letter Media suck-ups, Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, who has since walked back on his words regarding the prequels, and George as a businessman since Bob Iger's quote regarding how he treated George after the deal was struck with Disney. Jeremy Johns has walked back on his words, thankfully, but all the rest of the fucking internet circle jerk who suck Disney's dick, who still try to spin the story and run George into the fucking ground, fuck you all, because look at where it's fucking left us. Look, hope you're fucking proud of yourselves. Like, honestly. Like, look, alright. The reason, here's something, I'm gonna tell you guys something right now that nobody ever fucking discusses, alright? I'll tell you why Star Wars was so special. What I mean, I'm gonna be trying, I'm not scripted here, mind you. I'm gonna try and word this as carefully as I can, alright? The reason why Star Wars was so special is because it belonged, I want to say it belonged to us, because it was, and it did, in a sense it did. Star Wars belonged to us, the fans, the consumers, the ones who wanted to see it, right? But it didn't belong to us like it was our own possession. It belonged to us as in, like, that's our boy sort of thing, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying here. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, it was a creation made from the heart, an artist's heart, that he made for he told the story he wanted to tell. for the fans that he loved. Okay? That's what I mean by saying it belonged to us. It was a creation, an entity of creation, a media creation that wasn't corporatized. All right? And you'll get what I'm saying in a second. Everything today is corporatized. The MCU, fucking Spider-Man, DC, you name it. Everything's corporatized now. Everything's based, like The Lord of the Rings, if it was made nowadays, would suck because it would be corporatized. I mean, look at the Hobbits. They were corporatized. Why do you think they were made into 3 fucking movies instead of just 1 or 2, which is what Peter Jackson originally wanted? Look at Justice League. What a train wreck that was. It's corporatized. Everything's fucking corporatized. Star Wars was corporatized in the sense that, hey, the creator wanted to throw in a bunch of fucking characters in the background to make toys. Who gives a fuck, honestly? He also expanded his world. He also filmed the movies the way he wanted. He portrayed the characters the way he wanted. He crafted the story and made every single decision the way he wanted to. That is very rare nowadays in film. Okay? I'm not saying the Star Wars was a masterpiece. The original trilogy's got a shit ton of problems. The prequels have their own fair share of problems, alright? But it was made and crafted and approved to every last detail by the original creator. There was no studio interference, particularly with the prequels, I should probably add. There was a little bit of with the original trilogy. With the prequels, it was all from the original creator. It was all from him. Again, that is very rare. Anyone can write a book. Fewer people can write a good book. Fewer people can turn their book into a movie. Even fewer people than that can turn a book in a sci-fi universe in a galaxy far, far away into a movie. Because it's just too fucking expensive. George Lucas fought, struggled, day in and day out, worked his fingers to the bone to escape the studio system, and he managed to fucking do it. The reason why Star Wars was special is because nothing on that scale, no blockbuster out at that point in the last 30 fucking years was made by one author. Okay? Like Alien was based off a book. Lord of the Rings, based off a book. Fucking, what else? Everything. Comic book movies, based off comics. You name it. Everything's based off some fucking source material. The one example I can think of that was not based off source material, to my knowledge, is The Matrix. That doesn't even come close to the scale of Star Wars. That's what I'm trying to get at. Star Wars was ours in the vicarious sense. Because we got to see an artist fulfill his dream, go out there and tell the story he fucking wanted to tell. Studios be damned. Fans and, fan fiction be damned. He had his story. He was the artist, had every right to tell his story. He was an author. He wrote something down, and he had the balls to fucking make it into a fucking movie and do it on his dollar the way he wanted to. And that, nowadays, especially in 2020, on the scale of Star Wars, is fucking unheard of and will likely never happen again. That's why Star Wars is special. Prove me wrong. By all means, fucking prove me wrong. Look what happens as soon as a corporation gets their grubby little fucking mitts on it. Why did he get their grubby mitts on it? Because the fans drove him away. Because Lucas making every single decision he wanted to make was framed as a negative. Like the guy couldn't take criticism. Like the guy couldn't fucking... Like the guy was trying to... Like people framed him as the corporate machine when he was the exact opposite. He wanted to escape the corporate machine. Because people listen to fucking idiots on the internet. Like, Jesus Christ, fucking wake up, people. Do your fucking research, for the love of God. Well, it's too late now. Because guess what? George had enough of the fan bullshit. He signed a fucking steal agreement with Disney. Walked into Bob Iger's office. Made the deal on the day. There was talks about him maybe selling. He walked in and was like, let's just do it, done. Make me an offer. Give me the fucking pen. Sign the fucking paper. See you later. Do your best with my baby. I'll make sure to send Kathy the details so you can talk with her and figure out your own shit. But I don't feel comfortable making anymore. But the fans love it. Do the fans proud. Don't let me down. And here's some story treatments to help you along your way. Disney did none of that. They're the corporate machine. They own it now. They will never give it up. And now Star Wars isn't ours now. Star Wars isn't George Lucas's now. even though it was always George. But what I mean by when it was George's, it was ours as well, because again, vicariously it was ours. Because it wasn't... This is going to sound extremely corny, but it was pure. It was a pure creation. It's an artist telling the fucking story he wanted to make. You can pick apart the flaws all you want, but I'll take an authentic story over a corporatization story any day of the fucking week. Because now Star Wars is corporatized. And it's shit. Doesn't mean they can't make good Star Wars movies, but it's always gonna, if good or bad, it's always gonna be fucking corporatized. It's always gonna have some unnecessary bullshit on there that drags it down. It's always gonna have something that fucks it, one way or another. Politics, pandering, excessive marketing, idiots who don't understand the product the way the original creator would have. Star Wars is corporatized now. And, you know, look at what's happened. People can say, oh, but a lot of things are corporatized. A lot of things become corporatized. Not like Star Wars. Star Wars was a blockbuster that had no source material to go off. The stories and the screenplays, with the odd exception here and there, was made by one guy. Pretty much one author. One author made Star Wars. He wrote it on a piece of paper. He made them into movies. He couldn't flush them out to the universe and the movies to the extent of Lord of the Rings or the fucking Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever, because he wasn't going off anyone's source material. He was going off his heart. He did it all himself. You know, again, and that in cinema especially is very, very special. Now, George Lucas, we get this guy confirming just what we all know, is that George hates it, and he mentioned something about a non-disparagement clause. So George hates it, he just can't voice his hate for it because Disney didn't want him to speak ill if they decided to fuck him in the ass. Which they did. So now George has to sit in silence about all this hate he has. Can't voice his opinion, he can't be truthful. He has to shill for these corporate cunts who just suck the fucking blood out of everything that's good in creation and media. And it makes me sick. And the people that had anything to fucking do with Star Wars getting handed over to fucking Disney make me sick too. Bet your ass. And yeah, sorry about the rant. I didn't expect it to get that angry, but I had trouble finding the words for what I was trying to say. It's just, it's frustrating because now, again, people get pissed off at the Marvel Cinematic Universe because of how corporatized it is. And Martin Scorsese has a famous quote saying that the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't cinema. I disagree, and I still think it's a cuntish thing to say, what he said. Because, believe it or not, those movies are cinema, but they're corporatized cinema. They're still movies. They still make people happy. They still have a beginning, middle, end, but they are corporatized to hell. They're still good, some of them. They're still decently good movies, or at the very least entertaining. But they're corporatized. They're fan fiction. They're adapted from a fucking comic book somewhere. I have a very strict policy, and you can feel free to disagree with me, that any media created by a single author that's adapted by another body, anything that's adapted from a single author or a single author's work, let's say Game of Thrones, for example. Game of Thrones, the series, is a fan fiction of A Song of Ice and Fire. The DCEU is a fan fiction of DC Comics. The same with Marvel, but Star Wars wasn't a fan fiction until Disney bought it. Now Star Wars is a fan fiction. Star Wars was in its purest, most authentic, and by my standards, canon form under George Lucas, because you can't replicate an intellect. You can only mimic, you can only imitate it. And George Lucas was Star Wars, and will always be Star Wars. And cinema, fans, humanity needs to fucking remember that. So that next time an artist wants to tell the story he fucking wants to tell, he gets to fucking tell it. And you don't have any Boba Fett pajama wearing fucking moron on the internet who didn't get what he wanted telling him he can't tell his own story, and getting some fucking jerk off from the fucking Slavic countries to make a fucking documentary about why the fans hate the creator so much to the point where he fucking wants to sell it. That's all I gotta fucking say. I'm fucking done, man. I love George Lucas. Fuck The Last Jedi. It's no secret that he fucking hates it, but now we fucking have it confirmed. What pisses me off the most is that he can't voice his fucking displeasure about it. So didn't he have him on lockup, silenced, zipped his fucking lips? Fuck The Last Jedi, fuck Ryan Johnson, and any other corporate cunt of Disney who has no respect for the creative process. Love George Lucas. George Lucas is Star Wars, and that's all I have to fucking say.